it because it was too fucking depressing.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Rogan said he cried watching um, Phil's new documentary.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because I was trying to see if Rogan had made any mention of the goings on in Washington, but he hadn't yet.
Okay.
So I guess Rogan hasn't really said anything about it.
Hmm. I literally download. I finally caved the other day and downloaded the Spotify app on my phone just to listen to Joe Rogan's podcast because it's finally stopped uh, posting episodes on YouTube.
Yeah, I don't like the Spotify app. It's kind of chunky and buggy on my phone.
Yeah, I noticed
Um,
that too for mine. It's a little bit glitchy and laggy.
yeah, so yeah, it's the only time I use it for a couple different reasons. One of the big reasons I use Spotify is because my phone company doesn't count Spotify against data.
Okay.
So whenever I'm out and about, I'll use it. If I'm at home, I'll use something else like Stitcher or something like that. But for Rogan, I have to use Spotify. I really have no choice because that's the only place he's at right now.
Right.
But it is what it is, I guess.
Yep.
All right, let's see if we can find that link now. Should be
Did
able
you
to find
start
it
it?
now. Yeah, I started. I now have to find the link.
Okay.
Such a pain in the booty. Okay, videos. So I gotta start it and I gotta throw that link out there into the ether.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. I think my remote client is lagging right now. I'm gonna log out and log back in.
Okay. I don't hear like audio lag or anything from you.
You're not hearing audio in the stream?
No, no, I hear your audio, but I'm not hearing a lag.
Oh, yeah, I just need to. Well, the lag is because the thing I control my computer with is not responding. So I need to close it and restart it because it's not responding to my commands here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called TeamViewer. It's basically you install it on a computer, and it lets you access that computer remotely as long as that computer is on. So I left it on, and just waiting to connect to it again now.
Okay. I see the link for the video here now.
There you do. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to reconnect to the computer. What is going on, TeamViewer? TeamViewer, TeamViewer.
Is that an app?
Yeah, it's an app. It's a website. It's making me sign in again. This is bullshit.
Hmm. It's weird.
Okay, so I don't know what that bull crap was all about. I'm reconnecting it now.
Okay.
Okay,
You share the link?
random window. Um, you got the link?
Did you share it? Because I can share it if you want me to.
Oh yeah, you could share it to Facebook. I'm gonna put it on Twitter right now.
All right. Share the linkies. Hmm. I don't see that. I don't see the picture that you posted
What is it showing?
on the video. It just shows like the screen of your avatar and then like a blank screen for me.
Oh, that's weird. Because I put,
Show everyone.
yeah, I did upload it. I don't know why it's not showing now.
Maybe I didn't choose to show myself and now I did. I thought I had
Oh,
selected.
it's blank. I know why it's blank. It's because I got to set something up. It's not, it's gonna, I'll set it up right now. It should go back to normal
Okay.
once I do that. But I'm having trouble finding the damn
Oh
video.
yeah. Okay. Riots in the capital Wasteland.
Okay, now it's showing it. Okay.
Got it? Okay.
Well, it's showing me the picture.
It is?
Yeah?
Let me refresh my page here.
Yeah, I see it. Well, let me go post it on Twitter.
Okay. Okay.
Capitol riots. All right. Tweet. All right, tweet has gone out. All right, let me fix your situation where it's showing you as black or empty spot.
All
You
right.
can check now to see if it's showing you. Let me know if there's an issue.
All right.
But the live stream should feature you soon.
No, I don't see it showing me there yet. Oh wait, yeah, now it is. Now it is. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So
Yeah.
we should be good now.
Yeah.
All right, man. Welcome to the show. This is the Woke Media Club, but it looks like we're just going to cover some current events today. We were supposed to cover Fahrenheit 11.9, but Andrew didn't know it was 11.9 and watched 9/11
Yeah.
instead. So Michael Moore has two documentaries similarly titled Fahrenheit 9/11 and Fahrenheit 11.9. 11.9 just came out a couple of years ago, and it's about Trump, the campaign to his presidency, and some other political issues before and after his election. But yeah, we're gonna have to postpone that till at least next week because Andrew watched the wrong documentary,
Yeah.
and I haven't seen that one in years, so I can't really follow a conversation on it. Like I haven't seen that one since it came out, and that was what, in the 2000s, the early 2000s.
I probably hadn't seen it since then either.
So if we want to talk about it now, I just wouldn't remember much of anything about it. And Andrew hasn't seen 11.9, so he doesn't know much of anything about that one either. So instead of covering the documentary today, we're just going to talk about the current events surrounding the crazy ass situation in Washington. What are your thoughts there, Andrew, on this crazy, fucked up situation where we have a mob of QAnon conspiracy theorists storming the Capitol? I know it wasn't a unified or coherent message or mob, but it was still pretty scary.
Yeah, no shit, man.
I know I forgoed I got past my reluctance to watch cable news to see what was going on in this particular situation because it happened before my local news station was live, so I had to watch CNN. Well, I put it on CNN first, and then it was extremely cringy because it felt like, oh, the humanity, oh no, the world's ending, and look at all this, and I was like, Jesus, I need like maybe some calmer voices to talk about it. So I was
Yeah.
like, all right, I hate Fox News, but I'm gonna do it. So I went over to Fox News, and they were actually covering it pretty objectively. Um, they weren't snowflaking all over the place, but they also weren't trying to rationalize or defend it. They were just reporting the news. I think that's something I can appreciate about Fox if it's just breaking news. I don't listen to any other their opinion shows. I know those shows are bullshit. But for breaking news, they actually put a pretty good job for the event. So I was like, huh, really, Fox? I would never really endorse them for anything. But I
Yeah.
thought they covered the breaking news section of this event pretty decently. It's just like I was listening to the CNN feed and I had to roll my eyes so hard at certain parts of that. And I was kind of like, wow, usually these guys are pretty objective, but they're really like snowflaking all over this event. And
I
by
didn't see.
snowflaking, I mean that they were just like, I wanted them to report information and update me as things were coming and happening. But most of it was just like, I don't know how to explain it. Just, I don't know how to explain it. It's like they couldn't stay calm or objective about what they're reporting, um, which is what I was kind of looking for.
Okay.
It, like when I first started watching it, it's like, oh, the content, the humanity, oh no. It's like, man, I need my news people to be like calm. So
Right.
I was like, I had to switch it.
I
But
think what I don't think I don't even know what network I was seeing because I was just watching whatever news coverage that my mom happened to have on, and I think it was probably the CBC because I think Chris was telling you that you have to pay to get Fox in Canada. I think it was. I don't remember whether it's the case that you can get CNN without paying for it, but it must have been CBC, I guess, because the the local, or I mean the federal news here in Canada is, I mean, it's often pretty biased towards the liberals, but I mean, in this case, they were kind of just showing the news. Like they were all day long, there were like every congressperson and senator giving basically the same speech about how we have to be united against violence and this is
mhm.
not what America is like and all that, like basically the same speech over and over again, and then just covering footage of what was happening.
Yeah, I finally, as soon as it turned 4, I switched it to my local station. Um, I wouldn't say my local station is super objective, but they're my local station. So they're specifically serving my community and where I live. And I kind of appreciate the fact that we have news people that live in my area that cover. These are like faces I see pretty much every weekday because I watch the local news at least for a half hour every weekday. I think it's just really important to know what's going on around you as opposed to being force fed like national news all day. Like my local news reports on national news, but it typically takes a backseat to local news. But the local news will cover national news. They just do it in a local flavor that caters to the people who live here. It's so that's just kind of what I appreciate about the local news. That, and they're not super biased. Like there's no opinions. It's just they tell you what's going on. That's pretty much what their job is supposed to be.
So it wasn't like um, it wasn't the, like one of the main differences was one of the main differences between the local news coverage and CNN, that your local news coverage was not saying things like everyone in Washington D.C. is in danger, the Trumpists are taking over the entire city.
Yeah, nothing like that. It's just covering. They were basically covering press conferences and events that were happening. Like I know as soon as I turned on the local news, they were showing the DC mayor having a press conference. So, and then, just local stuff. But the thing about the whole Capitol riots is it's pretty much local to me. To
Yeah,
everybody else, it's a national news story.
yeah,
But to me, this is like in my backyard here.
yeah.
Um,
How
so yeah, I
close
just switched it to
are you
local.
to the Capitol? You're actually not that close, right?
I'm not that close, but I'm also not that far. If I were to drive to the Capitol right now, okay, so if there were no traffic, I can get to the Capitol in like 15 minutes driving.
Oh, wow.
It's like less than 20 minutes away if there were no traffic. But this is DC, so there's always traffic. Um, I can try to get the exact. Um, Let me see how far I am from DC. Give me a second.
Okay.
Da, 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 da.
Hmm. Yeah, man, I like
DC.
you basically said the um like your reaction was pretty similar to mine. Like I'm all like I was talking with I was basically kind of saying this when I was talking with Reed and Nathan about this on my channel about the the armed Trumps, like literally armed Trump supporters storming the DC Capitol building, and I know that most of them apparently were unarmed, but some of them were, and it just made me think like how wrong you can be about things, and about how much unprecedented shit has happened in 2020 and now 2021 as well. Like throughout Trump's entire presidency, I was saying like, there's not going to be some fucking armed insurrection or some shit, man. Like, calm down. They're not going to do shit like that. And then that shit. And then I mean, the good, like you were saying, the good thing about the like small silver lining about Trump is that he just does things spontaneously, and it's like a clusterfuck and unorganized. So it's not like there was this well organized militia planning this for months in like minute detail of what's going to happen. It sounds like because we were gonna Reed found the transcripts of the tweets that were deleted that Trump made, and he was saying things like let's be peaceful about it and respect the cops. So it sounds like he didn't actually directly incite riots, but he was having a rally about contesting the results of the election, and he was like basically encouraging people to angrily protest, to say the least. And then it sounds like people got carried away, and then they stormed the Capitol building, and they were doing all this dumb shit like taking selfies of themselves committing federal crimes going into Nancy Pelosi's office. But then also, like I said, I've been wrong about so much shit this year. Like I thought Trump was pretty certain to be reelected, and then COVID happened, which almost no one at least could have predicted, and uh,
Mhm.
Joe Biden got elected, and then especially this fucking crazy shit like Trump protesters are like violently assaulting the Capitol building. I never expected that to happen. It's fucking crazy shit, man.
Yeah, so I'm in the same camp as you. I never thought there would be anything to happen like this, but you only realize how this came to be in hindsight. And I'm just thinking, okay, right in the beginning, we knew that Trump was a conspiracy theorist.
Mm-hmm.
Even before he started running, like back in the birther days, you know, he was going hard in the paint on conspiracy theories. And I guess the biggest problem here is you have the person who's in the highest position constantly peddling conspiracy theories, and the people who follow him just eat the shit up uncritically. It's it just shows how important now it is that when you elect your leaders, you got to make sure that they're not unhinged. You got to make sure that what they say is based in reality.
Yeah.
Like that's the problem with Trump and specifically.
Like that reminds me too of what we were talking about before we started this, that I heard from Nathan when we were talking about this the other day, that apparently like some of the Trump supporter conspiracy theorists are, they came up with this theory that the the apparently so-called Trump supporters violently assaulting the Capitol was actually a false flag attack by Antifa. I'm like,
Yeah, the
what are you
funniest thing
talking
that
about, man?
I've seen a lot of these screenshots trying to show that, oh, this guy is from Antifa. I debunked quite a few of them from some idiot right wingers. I I shouldn't call them that. It's I don't know what it is. I don't know how these people fall for this stuff. Like
Yeah,
my motto is you should never trust a screenshot. And of
yeah.
course, all of these things are screenshots. Like there's no article, there's no
Mhm.
context to go along with these. Like one of the screenshots I saw on somebody's newsfeed on Facebook, it was a screenshot of two of the people walking near the buffalo guy, who are, you know, the Q shaman or whatever his name is, the guy with the buffalo horns and the fuzzy headdress,
I don't think I saw
and
that guy.
he has a painted face. He's wearing like a fuzzy headdress. He's holding the American flag. There's so many memes online about the guy.
Oh,
But
okay. I
anyway,
definitely
he's
haven't
standing
seen
to
this guy. I would remember that. Yeah.
yeah. So he's standing next to two other people, and someone gets another screenshot of two guys, and it looks like it's a search, image search on Google. And below the image search, it says phillyantifa.org. And they're trying to say that these two people are really from Antifa.
That's
So,
so fucked up. What?
yeah,
Wow.
so my critical thinking brain goes, so, okay, I go to the link. Yes, it's an Antifa website. And the only photos they show are like pictures of white supremacists. So I'm guessing, okay, these guys might be white supremacists or something. So I take a good look at the photo again because I couldn't find the exact photo. And one of the guys in the photo, I was like, I think I've seen this guy in a documentary before. And lo and behold, it was one of the neo Nazis that we saw in that documentary we watched.
On the alt
Um,
right?
yeah, so it was one of those guys, and they were trying to peddle the screenshot as that guy is part of Antifa. So in my head, I'm just like laughing, and
A
I
neo-Nazi
go,
is part of Antifa.
yeah. So I just go to the guy, well, and I say, well, here's the problem. One, did you actually go to that website and find the photo? And two, do you think someone who's a part of Antifa would show their picture on an Antifa website? Like these
Yeah.
guys don't go out in the streets showing their faces. You really think they're going to post their face on one of their websites? No, it's just a bunch of neo Nazis on their website. And I told them the name of the neo Nazi, and I even posted a link to that neo Nazi's Wikipedia entry. It's like
Oh,
this
okay.
is the guy supposedly who's Antifa. and
Okay.
it's definitely not an Antifa guy. He's like the head of a neo-Nazi organization.
Wow, that's fucked up, man.
And and the other problem is that guy wasn't even at the rally. The
Wow.
guy that they had pictured, his face was covered, so you couldn't even tell who it was. And they said, "Oh, it's this guy." And that guy isn't one, he's not Antifa. Two, he's a white supremacist.
Wow.
So there's a lot of conspiracy theories about like one of the other funny conspiracy theories, and this is I can't believe you haven't seen this guy yet. He has a painted face. He's wearing like a fuzzy headdress and he's wearing like Viking horns.
And they said,
The
"Oh, it's this
other
guy."
Yeah, the other conspiracy theory around the guy was that, oh, this guy was at Black Lives Matter marches and he's an Antifa infiltrator. So I looked into him, and the guy is actually a QAnon guy, and the reason he was at BLM marches was to oppose BLM as a Trump supporter. It
Oh,
had
wow.
and now there are articles about this guy because he's kind of internet famous now, that he's upset that people are calling him Antifa because he's a hardcore QAnon Trumper.
Wow. I'm
Um,
really trying to look up an image of that guy right now.
yeah,
Oh,
just
yeah.
type in
Oh, yeah. I
that.
see. I see. Yeah.
Yeah, that guy.
He's got his face painted in red, white, and blue.
Yeah, that guy. So there's all these really stupid conspiracy theories trying to say that the people who broke into the Capitol building weren't like Trump supporters, and it's obviously they were because they've arrested a bunch of them.
Yeah, and wait,
Uh,
wasn't I think I heard this yesterday that apparently, like, at first, um when we just knew that only that one person had gotten killed so far and they didn't know who it was. I heard yesterday that apparently they identified that woman now, and it was one of the rioters who was assaulting the Capitol. Did you hear that?
yeah, so the woman who was shot, it was a hardcore QAnon supporter. If you look, you can find her QAnon rants. Uh, I know there's been some quotes and interviews from people who know her. Um, I know her husband's mother-in-law thought she was crazy. So, and she was like, she had no idea why she would go to Washington because the woman who went to Washington is from San Diego. She basically flew across the entire country to get there
Wow.
for this rally. So yeah, she was shot, and this was because, well, there's multiple reasons. Like, imagine being a cop in the Capitol and you see this fucking huge mob like advancing on you, and there's like some pretty chilling videos of some of these cops inside the Capitol fleeing the mobs.
Oh,
I
wow.
know there's
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a video of like a black cop, and he's the only one there by himself
Shit.
in a
Fuck.
hallway, and there's fucking people just mobbing through there,
I'd
and he's
fucking
trying
run
to.
too, man. Holy shit.
Yeah, he's by himself. He's trying his best to keep them at bay. Like, he brings out his nightstick baton and everything, but he's still backing away from the mob. So he gets backup later on, which is about 4 officers, but that of course wasn't enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, one woman was shot in the chest. She died. One of the police officers was beaten to death with a fire extinguisher.
Holy fuck. Wow.
And 3 other people died from medical complications. Like, I think someone had a heart attack. Somebody had a stroke. But I know one of the deaths as a murder. I know that for sure. And that was the cop being beat to death with a fire extinguisher.
That's the most brutal one so far that I've heard of. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
And this is clearly right wing people doing that, whereas I've seen people talk about this, and I've been thinking about this too. Like it's left wingers who were saying like defund the police, and one of the arguments that I'm certainly not alone in making was if you say defund if you are one of those people who buy defund the police, because there are people who have reasonable arguments for this. If you are one of the people who buy defund the police, you mean abolish the police and military and prisons. If you did that, what the fuck would you do in this type of situation when fucking violent Trump supporters attack the Capitol and kill people? Who's gonna stop that shit? Fuck.
Yeah. And the funny thing and the ironic thing is that, and I wasn't able to personally attest to this because I didn't really look into it that much. Actually, I didn't look into it at all. But apparently, there were people in this mob who had Blue Lives Matter signs.
Really?
Yeah,
That's so fucked up. Like that
yeah,
doesn't make
definitely.
sense.
But they interviewed a lot of these people at the protests, and they had such wide positions on why they were there. It just, some people are like, oh, there's no violence going on. Of course, they're not in the areas where violence is going on. And then there's people that are, one thing I know is like a lot of them, they're all Trump supporters, but they're also extremely authoritarian.
Right.
And they don't really give a shit about the Constitution or how it works or due process. Um,
Oh, okay. You mean they're anti-authoritarian?
no, they are extremely authoritarian.
Okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah, like not caring about due process, stomping on the Constitution. Like these are not conservatives, so to speak. Like they're
Yeah.
not there because of specific policies. They're there because of Trump.
Yeah. That's an important point to make too, because a lot of like it's not there. This stuff has not been denounced in a partisan way. Like there's been bipartisan condemning of it, like conservatives too, and in the news footage that I saw of like senators and Congress people denouncing what happened. It was Democrats and Republicans, and even people who have been with Trump all the way. This is another thing I was talking about the other day that a lot of people have probably heard about, which is that Mike Pence and I don't know for sure, but I think it was maybe Kayla McEnany too, his press secretary, who have either way, it was someone like that in that sort of job. They
Mm-hmm.
they both denounced this shit and basically like betrayed Trump, whereas they were with him all the way before that too. So like even people who were loyal to him all the way are abandoning him for this shit.
Yeah, yeah. I know he and Pence had a pretty public falling out where Trump was talking shit on Twitter about Pence because he didn't support him in, I don't know, not certifying the vote. And Pence was basically like, I'm going to follow the Constitution.
Yeah,
I'm not going to follow what you say. I'm going to do my job as a protector of the Constitution. And that just kind of set Trump off. I also have heard that um, Pence's chief of staff was barred from entering the White House after that.
yeah,
So I don't know. And you got to remember, Pence was inside the building when this shit happened. And they were calling Pence a traitor. So we don't know what would have happened if these people got their hands on Pence. It probably wouldn't have been a nice situation.
yeah. No shit, man. Fuck.
So it's crazy. I just don't know how people. Well, I do know how people could believe this shit because I used to believe in conspiracy theories. But wow, the problem with the conspiracy theories that I believed is they didn't come from people in power. They came from really fringe people that really didn't have a wide audience. This was before Alex Jones was big. He had like a minuscule niche audience. Um, but now there's such a huge audience for this, it's actually become quite scary.
Yeah, no shit.
And to me, this is
You
just
saw
gonna,
the
I don't think this is gonna stop. There's gonna be more crazy shit to come.
Man, I hope you're wrong about that, but it seems like it seems like you're probably right.
Because
Did
they're
you?
already planning another event. They're planning to come back on the 16th or 17th or some shit like that.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't Trump finally say something about it, about him like allowing a peaceful transition?
Yeah. He basically, I'm guessing he was pressured into saying this, but yeah, he came out and made like a 3-minute video. It was like a little press conference, and he denounced the riots. Um, he said he will peacefully transition, and of course, he didn't take any responsibility for what happened, but he's trying to walk back the fucking disaster that he caused.
Yeah,
Because there's a lot of debate about what about like his actions, his words, what he said, what
yeah,
it
like
could
how
be
culpable is
considered.
he, right?
Yeah, it. Well, I was looking into it, and he doesn't quite qualify for the illegal action of inciting violence because
Yeah,
there's
that's kind of the
two.
conclusion that I came to also.
Yeah, because there's two criteria that he would have to meet to do so. He only met one of those criteria, and that's for a place and time of action. He met that criteria, but he did not meet the criteria for calling for an illegal action. Like there was nothing, he didn't say go attack, go kidnap, go kill. He just said you have to fight hard. And that could mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
And even Martin Luther King in some of his speeches used phrases like, we're fighting a war, let's fight this war. You
Right.
can't consider that an incitement to violence. It's not specific enough.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't fit the criteria, but however, he does fit the criteria of inciting a mob because that is not specific. It's just he says something and a mob reacts,
Okay.
which there really isn't any legal action for that. However, there's like political actions as now they're bringing the articles of impeachment back on him.
What I was just thinking about too. I wanted to ask you about that because so there are a few things I've heard about that. One there are a few things that I was thinking about and that I've heard about in terms of that, I guess. So one of them is that Trump was talking about pardoning himself, but then if he pardons himself, wouldn't that mean admitting to crimes? And then if he does pardon himself, could he get criminally charged after that? Because and also, how can he pardon himself if I thought I had heard that you can't be criminally charged as a president, and then also then in terms of the impeachment, I seem to understand from when he was already impeached for the Russiagate shit that the like you get impeached and then it could lead to the result of you getting removed from office. But he was not removed from office before when he was impeached because it's a Republican controlled Senate. So he was not removed from office. Like, would he actually be removed from office in this case? Because like has enough of his support from the Republican Senate dropped off where they would actually remove him from office? And is like, or would it make more sense, like politically, strategically speaking, would it make more sense to just wait until he's no longer president after January 20th, I believe, and then just like arrest him for crimes that he committed while he was president, or for tax fraud or some shit like that?
Well, a lot of those crimes that are being investigated, like the tax fraud crimes, those are independent of whatever else he's doing. So no matter what, he's going to have to face that um, in some instance. And he cannot pardon himself for that because it's not a federal crime, it's a state crime. So we're
Oh,
talking
okay.
about state taxes. So there's no way for himself to pardon himself from a state crime. So he will have to face up to that in court. Whether he's guilty or not will be determined. As far as him pardoning himself, when you pardon, the one who is getting pardoned admits guilt. Like you can reject the pardon, but if you accept the pardon, whatever someone might say, that means you were fucking guilty and you've accepted that.
Right.
In the case of Trump, I don't know what he would pardon himself for. Like an impeachment, like isn't a criminal process.
Yeah, it's a political
So
one.
yeah, so the reason for the impeachment really isn't it's to deter future occurrences like this from happening. It's not necessarily meant to actually remove him. My impression is that they won't be able to do this fast enough to actually remove him from office.
Yeah,
He
that
doesn't
I've
have that
heard
long.
people say that too, because like it's like, how many days? What's the date today? The ninth? Yeah, in 11 days they're gonna manage to do that. That's like, look at how long the Russiagate impeachment took, and that was like, wasn't that a little rush too? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. So they have to do the impeachment inquiry, and then they have to go to the trial, and then they have to vote in the House and Senate. As there's going to be the House, and then it gets bumped up to the Senate. And it probably wouldn't be a good idea because who knows what the vote would go in the Senate? Because Mitch McConnell would probably block it, as he's still actually. They were. I'm pretty sure. When do these new senators get sworn in? I think it's the same day as the president, if I'm not mistaken. But I might be wrong. But anyway, it's done to set a precedent, and we would like to set a precedent that inciting a riot to march on the Capitol um, isn't what a president should be doing.
Yeah,
You
no
know,
shit.
that's not defending the Constitution.
Yeah.
That's the anathema of defending the Constitution. Accepting the decisions in constitutional processes is defending the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Denying those processes is not. You know, it's dictatorial. It's being a complete authoritarian.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a freaking mess, man. I just could not believe with my eyes.
Me neither, man. You still there? Oh, looks. Did you get kicked out there? Oh. I think Dusty might have gotten kicked out there. Hopefully he'll be back in a minute. Let me see what he's doing there. But yeah, I mean, this really is totally fucked up. Um, Dusty, if you're still watching when you get back, I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask Dusty um, about what he thinks about Trump getting banned from Twitter and Facebook. Now, if I understand correctly, um, he in terms of Twitter, I think it was 3 tweets that got banned or blocked, and basically Twitter held him hostage, and they said that if he doesn't delete those tweets within 12 hours, then they'll permanently delete his account or something like that, I believe. Um, and I think in terms of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg said something like he's banning Trump's account for the rest of his presidency. So, I mean, that's only like 12 or 11 days or something, like I said. Oh, are you back there, bro?
Yeah, I didn't even know it was gone. I was like
Okay.
ranting for a while.
Okay. What were you saying? I was just talking about how he got like some semi banned and completely banned from Twitter and Facebook.
Well, I know he's completely banned from Twitter. He got a permanent suspension. I don't know.
Oh,
I
is it
think
now?
Facebook is just until he's out of office, I believe. Um, so people are very concerned about this, of course. I've heard from both sides. Um, and to me, I think it's pretty much inconsequential that he's banned from Twitter. When I was looking at things, he should have been banned from Twitter a long time ago, according to Twitter's terms of service. So if Twitter is
Okay.
going to be consistent with how they apply their terms of service, they should have been consistent with the president. Um,
Okay.
so when it comes to Twitter, boo hoo, huge loss. The president has the power to call press conferences, he can submit statements. One, I never actually went to Twitter to view any of the president's tweets. I always got them from other news sources.
Yeah, me too.
It's not the fucking end of the world that the president's not on Twitter.
Do
Um,
you approve of that though? Because I don't approve of that.
well, to be honest, here's the deal. People try to compare Twitter to the public square. One,
Mm-hmm.
my taxpayer money does not go into Twitter.
No.
Twitter is funded by private individuals and investors. To be honest, I shouldn't have a say. I'm not a shareholder. If I was a shareholder, then yeah, I have a voice to control how Twitter works, but I'm not. Twitter can do what it wants to do, but at least they should be transparent about what they're doing. And whenever you're a user, you have a contract to use their terms of service. And if he violated them, he violated them. It's pretty
Mm-hmm.
simple.
Well,
Only
I'm
way.
talking about how like what we've talked about before about like the freedom of speech issue in general. Like banning him seems like it seems like all the time when they do that, it just backfires, and there's the Streisand effect, and people become more popular, and like even like unless he the like I kind of think that maybe like the same rules that are like legal limits to free speech should apply to Twitter also, but like also obviously I don't have any say either because it is a private company, and I think I agree that there are flaws with the like Twitter as a public square argument, and or like making it be managed like a utility, like a phone company or something like that. But I mean, I'm also pretty like I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm a free speech absolutist, but I'm fairly close to that.
Well, here's the problem. I'm totally with free speech when it comes to the government censorship or the government attempting to censor speech, which this is not the case. Like another analogy I always like to use is I would tell somebody, what if you owned a 7-Eleven and you had a bunch of customers in there and some white dude just walked in, started calling all your black customers the N word? Do you think, as a business owner, that you should have the right to eject that person from your business?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with Twitter.
Well, there are a hell of a lot more people on Twitter than there would be in any store owned by anyone, though.
But it doesn't matter the scale. The only thing that matters is that you own that business and you get to dictate your customers' conduct within your business.
Doesn't it matter? Doesn't it matter in terms of scale because so many people use Twitter and so many people get their news from Twitter and so many people get their news about Trump from his tweets?
No, because Amazon is just as huge as far
But
as
they're not
the
a
people who
social media
use it.
platform.
Well, technically they are because you can publish reviews on all the products.
But does that? But people don't really use it in the same way that they use Twitter and Facebook.
It is, but the government doesn't own Twitter or Facebook, and freedom of speech only applies to the government.
Yeah,
And
but
Twitter and Facebook aren't the only means of communication on the internet.
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm confused about why. Like, I think if I remember correctly, we agreed when like Kamala Harris, for example, was saying that Trump should get banned from Twitter during the 2020 American presidential election. I think we agreed that that was a bad idea. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if your opinion has changed about that, what has it changed because of
No,
the
my opinion
violence that
hasn't
Trump caused?
changed.
No?
So, in the
Oh,
case
okay.
of Kamala Harris, she's not Twitter. It's not her
No.
decision. It's Twitter's decision whether they do this.
Yeah, I know. Of
So,
course.
I don't think calls for banning is correct. Like, especially when it comes to a politician doing it and trying to use political pressure to have Twitter ban people. If I want Twitter to ban people, I want them to do it because it's their business prerogative to do so, not because some politician is pressuring them.
Okay. Well, weren't a lot
So,
of politicians put and regular people pressuring them to ban Trump after this shit, though? I'm sure they were.
I don't know. I have no idea because I didn't hear any chatter from politicians that said, "Oh, you have to ban Trump from Twitter now." I think Twitter just decided to do it.
Maybe they anticipated the public outcry for that because there was almost guaranteed to be one.
Maybe, I don't know. But you got to think too, like Twitter's also acting as a business. Um, that's the biggest thing. Like if the government created a social media site, then fuck yeah, they wouldn't be able to ban people because this is a publicly funded. That would actually be a public square. If the
Mm-hmm.
government funded a social media site, um, then you can go ahead and talk about free speech. You can't really do that when you're talking about the use of a private entity's product. You just can't go to any business and say free speech. It just doesn't apply there. And includes social media. When you go on social media, there is no free speech. You cannot post porn on Facebook.
You can on
You will
Twitter.
get banned. So the people who are saying all this free speech nonsense, as soon as they sign up for Twitter and you see that there is a terms of service, you're already acknowledging that you don't have the right of free speech when you're using these products.
Do you think it's that simple though?
It is
Like,
that simple.
I don't think it is that simple because like so many people use it, and you don't have a choice but to accept those conditions if you're going to use it. And I mean, like obviously, people pretty much everyone who uses Twitter would rather agree to those terms and conditions, even though they don't want to, than just not use Twitter.
You don't have to use Twitter, though.
Well, I know you don't, but I mean, there is an argument to be made, in my opinion, that because so many people use Twitter and because it impacts like what happens on the news and even what happens politically, obviously, then they shouldn't have as much of a say as they do in who gets banned and who doesn't, and maybe the public should have more of a voice. And it seems like they often clearly
They
do, because
don't.
they
The
have an
problem here
influence
is that
on
the
who gets banned
public
and
do
who doesn't.
not. The public would have a say if they were funding it, but they're not.
But they influence who gets banned and who not and who doesn't, even though they don't technically have a say because they're not on the board of the company.
Who influences?
Everyone who comments on things on Twitter, and everyone like on YouTube who talks about it, and like politicians who talk about it, they get influenced by Twitter, and Twitter gets influenced by them.
Well, it's everybody. It's YouTube and everyone. Like
Yeah,
everybody. Okay, the biggest problem is these are companies.
yeah,
Like you can't just go to a company and demand that they can't block you or stop you from using their business product.
yeah.
You just can't do
But
that.
that,
It's like a major
that's not
tenet
the
of capitalism.
That's not the free speech issue, though. The free speech issue is whether you think that they should or not, like whether they should have the right to do that or not.
Well, private
And
business is not obligated to actually adhere to free speech.
yeah, I know, but we're talking about whether they should or not. I I kind of think that I kind of think that they should, but the problem is that how do like how do you mitigate that problem? Because if you're advocating for a government solution, then whoever is in power has control over those companies, and basically they operate like the government. So I mean, they would have to follow those issues apparently, but I mean, like any authoritarian leader could do anything they want with that, and perhaps like ban anyone they want to based on political tribalism. So I
Well,
mean,
they wouldn't be able to because if, all right, so say the government created a public square um, social media site, all right?
mhm.
Um, they would have to adhere to the Constitution because it's publicly funded. So they would not be able to ban people for speech that's offensive.
So wouldn't that be better?
Yes, if the government created a social media site, then yeah, you'd have the ability to say what you want that's legal without getting with any type of without consequence.
Do you think
But it's a
that there should be like a solution to this problem other than it just being a private company and them being able to do whatever they want, basically, in terms of
well,
that?
there already is. There's already social media sites that don't ban people for saying fucked up shit.
Yeah, but no one's on them.
That's the business decision that they made. So because they made that business decision, They have to either get bigger so that people are more will use them, or that's what they have to do. But that's the business decision they made.
How do they do that?
They just say we're not going to ban people. That's their business decision.
Hmm. Well,
It's
see, this is
basically
what this is
covering
why
a
it's
niche
this is why
market.
it's such a problem because like the I think it's fucked up and they shouldn't be able to do that, but I don't know what the solution to the problem is either. And I don't like there are problems with the solutions that everyone proposes to it, but I think there are also problems with the way that it's happening right now.
Well, the solution is publicly funded social media. That's you can't force private companies to do things. Like you can't just force them. Hey, you can't ban anybody from using your business tools. Like it's up to them to to ban people. Like as long as it's not discriminatory, right? I think a lot of the things that you know when they go to Congress and they talk to these social media companies, they do have to adhere to specific things by law. Like they can't just ban Muslim people or black people or whatever.
Those are
But
laws or rules made by the government.
yeah, yeah. So the only way would be either the government has to create a um, a social media company, or you'd have to amend the Constitution to force um, private entities to allow anybody to say whatever the fuck they want on their own private property or businesses without consequence.
Hmm. I don't know, man. Like this is why like I'm really uncomfortable with people getting banned for anything, but if you like I'm uncomfortable with the government solution too, and even if we're talking about government forcing companies to not ban people, I don't know, man.
Well, if you had a government-funded public social media place, it's fine. And like I said, I, Trump just can just go and parlor with the rest of his people. And
Yeah,
guess what? Whatever Trump says on Parler, the media is going to report on it. So it's not like his voice gets lost. He just has to go somewhere else to do it. So it's like, say,
you think Trump's going to
Walmart.
increase the popularity of things like Parler?
I have no idea. Likely, maybe. Like Parler is still there. I know they're getting removed from Google Play Store, but that doesn't mean anything. Just means you have to go to the Parler website instead of the app. That's it. Because for years, Google had blocked Amazon's apps from the Google Play Store. It's only been in
Really?
the last couple. Yeah, it's only been the last couple of years where Amazon apps have been available on Google Play.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Same thing with YouTube. Like, you can't get YouTube on a Fire tablet. I think you can get it now. Not that they stopped banning each other from their ecosystems. But
That's stupid.
but yeah, it's a complicated issue. But I don't think banning Trump has. It's a decision basically that Twitter is not wanting to do business with Trump. And it's the relationship between Twitter and Trump. That's the
Hmm.
relationship.
Another aspect of this that I was talking about the other day is that even though, I mean, I've pointed out myself and many other people have as well, that one one perhaps good thing about Trump is that he shows that the emperor has no clothes, so to speak, and that he shows that the president is just a regular person like anyone else and can be an imperfect jackass just like anyone else, and in some ways perhaps doesn't have as much power, as people think the president does. But in spite of that, I mean, even though I think people get carried away with this argument, he is like one of the most influential figures in the entire world. So like blocking a president does set a precedent that now presidents can get blocked from Twitter, which I don't know if that's really a good idea.
Well, it's a president, so they have the power to communicate. We're talking about they can call press conferences, they can call network news stations, they could call cable news stations directly. So they have, like, that's not going to affect them as much as you think. Like, Twitter off of Trump, or I'm sorry, Trump off of Twitter, we're still going to hear from him. It's not like his voice is gone. He just has to use another means to do so. And basically, anything Trump says is going to be reported by the media, wherever he says it.
Yeah. Do you think
So
well, do you think I mean, I think they report on it, but do you think that like I don't know, especially CNN for example, do you think that they would still have him on there for interviews?
probably, if it's a news one news, if you're a news organization, you're obligated to have elected officials um, on your programs if they wish to speak to you. And I'm saying if they wish to speak to you, if say Trump talks to whoever at Fox, they're going to let him on.
Has he
There's
even
not going to
has he been on CNN or MSNBC at all?
on CNN,
Yeah.
not like explicitly. I think he's probably only time he's really been on CNN is when they were hosting a debate.
Okay.
I don't think he's actually just called in CNN to talk to him. And they've probably asked him questions at press conferences and things like that. But I don't think he's came on a show. I know he's talked to reporters from various outlets and done interviews.
Hmm.
Typically, with the outlets, he doesn't call fake news.
He probably wouldn't even want to go on Fox News now because he probably feels like they betrayed him too.
Yeah, he's probably just going to go to OAN or Newsmax or, the other conspiracy peddlers and probably Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Like, here's what I think about Twitter. Does Twitter have the right to do so? Yes, they do. Should they? That's debatable.
I kind of don't think they should, but I don't know what the good solution is. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I don't know if they should or not. Um, I, to be honest, I don't think the Twitter ban affects his ability to communicate.
Yeah, so maybe it's ineffective anyway.
It is, but
And maybe it could
it's
even be counterproductive like it has been with other people who've gotten banned.
well, the problem with someone like Alex Jones or Milo, people like that, is they don't have immediate access to talk to the public like a president does.
Hmm.
So regardless, it really wouldn't affect a president that much. If it was somebody who completely relied on social media to talk to the public, then they would have a big problem,
Well, I
right?
mean, it hasn't necessarily been a problem for people who already have big platforms like Alex Jones, for example, right? And
Well,
for
people who have, yeah, their own platforms, because Alex Jones already had a platform before he came to use social media.
and then he
Um,
got more popular after he got deplatformed.
he did, but also I guess his reach, he may have gotten more popular, but his reach shrank.
How? I don't understand.
Okay, so how often these days do you see any new Alex Jones content or any of your favorite commentators talking about Alex Jones content?
Not that often.
Yeah, it's pretty close to none. The only time I ever see Alex Jones is when someone is making fun of them, but even then, they have to be careful because those videos might get taken down or something.
Yeah, that most of the time that's all that I see of him, like videos of people criticizing him or making fun of him.
Yeah, so the other thing that it prevents is people sharing content.
But
So
I mean, so did that increase the number of like followers of him on his website?
I don't know. The only reason it would increase his followers on his website is because people who currently consumed his content migrated.
Okay,
So we're not really talking about an expansion of his audience. We're just talking about a migration of his audience.
okay.
So while they may have migrated, I don't think there was an actual expansion.
That seems hard to determine.
It is hard to determine, but we got to remember of how instrumental social media is in spreading information. Um, and when I say social media, it's Facebook, it's YouTube, it's all the media sites basically that promote like user created content. But the reason Jones got as big as he was because of shareable content, people sharing the content. If the content becomes more difficult to share, then his audience, it's going to be difficult to grow his audience, right?
Mhm. I guess I've well, like we both seen him on other people's podcasts as well. Like I've seen him on Joe Rogan, and he's been yeah, he talked to Tim Pool recently, I think.
Well, I don't know, because I actually went and watched the Tim Pool video during the whole Capitol thing. I was like, okay, finally you're actually covering things how they should be covered. A little bit
Are
more
they?
objectively. Yeah, I went and checked the Tim Pool video, and I wanted to see how he was going to cover this specifically, and I was glad that he covered it the way he
How did he
did,
cover it? I didn't see it.
like everybody else.
That's good.
Uh, it's like okay, because usually he always has some type of,
Pro-Trump stance.
I wouldn't say pro-Trump, but anti-left stance.
Mm-hmm.
And he
Yeah,
didn't really do that this time. I think he was just taken aback so hard that he was like, fuck. Um, you should check it
understandable.
out. He seems, it's like the video he did on that
Yeah.
day.
Could you send me the link if you can find it, or like tell me which one it is?
Yeah, I'll get it. I'll get it to you once. I was just trying to check out different takes of people to see if they were going to stay in their partisan lanes or
Like,
look at this event and realize how fucking crazy things got.
I basically saw widespread condemning of it, except when I was watching the newest Hotep Jesus podcast last night. They were doing their standard like pro-Trump stuff still.
Well, yeah, I think anybody who tends to conspiracy will do that. Like, as much as I've had a falling out with Tim Pool's content over the years, he doesn't tend towards conspiracy. So how would I kind of expect that with Hotep? Because they get a bit conspiratorial on
Yeah.
that.
Well, they're anti-vaxxers for one thing, and they're
Yeah.
conspiratorial about some other things too, like how the government's run by communists or something like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was just trying to check out everyone's opinion on the thing, and I wanted to see if this kind of was like a shock to their systems or not. And it was a shock to a lot of systems. And I was like, okay, everyone is agreeing that this is a totally bad and fucked up thing. Okay.
That's good. It's kind of ironic too for Tim Pool because he's made so many videos about the threat of a civil war.
Yeah, this is kind of like the fruition of what he had been talking about so
Yeah,
much.
yeah,
Um, I was like, yep, here it is. And wow, was it a crazy ride?
yeah, man.
It's like
Fuck.
I almost felt like not going to work that day.
Did you feel like there you might be unsafe?
No, I work at home.
Oh, okay. Oh, because you
Just
didn't
because
want
of
to
the
hear about
political
it so much?
tension. Because I was like glued to the TV when this was going on,
Oh, okay, okay,
and it was still ongoing.
okay.
So, yeah, my biggest concern is how's the media going to cover this? And are we going to have, the cable news stations stuck in their partisan lanes? Um, and I think, yeah, this got widespread condemnation from most of everybody uh, that I was able to find. So,
Yeah. Actually, I
and
saw I to that point, I'm pretty sure I saw um even Dave Rubin was like shocked by this shit.
that's surprising.
Yeah.
I wonder what
Yeah, I
Candace
know,
Owens
right?
says about this.
Yeah.
I wonder what Charlie Kirk says about this. I wonder
Yeah.
what's that guy's name? The guy that's always like trying to debate people at like a chair. He's like in a chair, and he
Uh
has like a debate topic. What the hell's his name?
I don't know.
He was on Rogan, and they got in like a big argument about weed.
Um okay, there were
That's-
a few guys like that, I think.
was it?
That guy who wrote a book about how weed is bad or
No, he didn't. He was like a YouTube guy.
okay.
He was on
Oh,
Rogan.
it's was it a conservative guy?
Yeah, he's
Oh, was it
conservative.
Steven Crowder?
Yeah. I want
Oh,
to see
okay.
what he
Okay.
thinks about it.
Did you see what he thinks about it?
No, there's so many things I have to follow up on.
Okay.
But I've
I
went to
haven't seen what he
Rising.
thinks about it either. Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be.
yeah. So what Rising thought about it.
Yeah, I saw all the we probably saw the same like progressive coverage from like Kyle Kalinske and Rising or The Hill and like David Pakman and Jimmy Dore.
Yeah. So. And a couple of their like YouTube personalities I follow, like some black guy, and I want to see if Shoe on Head's going to cover it or not. You know,
Oh yeah.
so we'll see, man. It's completely insane that this happened,
Yeah, man.
and it's kind of like a case study to see what the power of conspiracies can do in mass.
Yeah, no shit, man.
Like the more people that believe it, and I'm kind of thinking, is this how civil wars start? Like you just do this and create like this rhetoric around nonsense, and it just gets so widespread and riles so many people up that they do something like this. It's just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't understand how like 40% of Republicans think that the election was stolen.
Yeah, I don't either, man.
And I was trying to ask people. I think I was on Facebook. I was in. I think it was the George. No, what was it? It was the Dan Carlin group, and I believe it was like a Russian or Chinese troll because I think there's Chinese trolls now.
Oh, okay.
I have a belief, but anyway, I was asking people. We're like, just give me the evidence for this, and I'll consider it. Because there was this guy saying, "Oh, there's less voter registrations and voters," and yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. I was like, well, yeah, just give me the evidence. And he's like, well, it's obvious, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well,
Whenever someone says it's obvious and doesn't show you any evidence, then they don't have evidence.
yeah. So I basically just said, well, you're making a truth claim. I just need some evidence to back up your truth claim. Here's an example. The Earth is 24,000 miles in circumference. Here's my evidence. I posted a Wikipedia article. And I asked him to do the same. It's like, well, there's no real way to calculate like all of the voter registration. It's like, well, you're just saying bullshit then.
Yeah.
And I basically said, well, um, whatever you assert without, it's called the Hitchens razor. Do you know that
Yeah,
one?
yeah. That which can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence.
Yeah, so I basically used Hitchens razor
Yeah.
on him, and that was that. But it seems like a lot of and I listened to the hour-long Trump call.
It was
I
an
listened.
hour? I didn't realize it was an hour. Wow.
Well, most media had hacked it up to like 4 minutes. I listened to the entire call,
Okay.
and it was just laden with conspiracies. The people were like, well, we've fucking investigated this shit, and none of what you said is true. So if you do have evidence that this happened, since you are the president, you would have access to that. Please send it our way.
Mm-hmm.
Because they said, you guys have not sent us any evidence that corroborates your assertions. And if you have this evidence, then send it to us. And we'll see what we could do.
What
And
an
of
idea.
course, they didn't coordinate, say, hey, we're going to give it to you tomorrow or something like that. No, they didn't do anything like that.
That's especially it's especially interesting that even a few of the people we mentioned, like Dave Rubin and Tim Pool, who even people like that who have been touting election fraud claims have now abandoned Trump with this fucking violent assault of the Capitol.
Yeah, because
So
I don't know if
Trump
Poole has abandoned Trump. I know in the news report or whatever report he did, he didn't do any defense of any of the people involved or of Trump.
Okay.
I don't know if he's made any subsequent videos walking back on anything he said. I just have to follow him and see if I'm hoping this event was something that will knock people back into their senses and pay attention to how dangerous fucking lying constantly, like what happens.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they should censor it. I'm saying they should pay more attention to it. And I think siloing information even more is not a good not a good strategy, because that just creates more of the same.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think that being able to report on things and continuing to report on things should be the norm. I know somebody had like a discussion on Facebook that they were upset that the Wall Street Journal published an opinion piece from Mike Pence. And I was
Really?
arguing with this individual, and I
He's the
told
fucking
him,
vice president, man.
yeah, exactly. So I told him, as a voter, I feel that it is the media's job to inform me about the opinions of the people of elected office.
Yeah.
I don't think it's irresponsible for them to print something like this. This is an opinion piece from the mouth of Pence. He wrote it. And the person, of course, disagreed with that. And I basically said, well, how will we come to the truth if we don't know what these politicians are saying? And it's up to us to know and decide whether, because he said, newspapers shouldn't publish lies. I told him journalists shouldn't lie.
Yeah.
But they need to they need to report on what politicians say,
Yeah.
even if it's bullshit.
Yep.
It's not their job to decide uh, if something is a lie. They can decide if something is a lie, but they shouldn't censor that,
Yeah.
especially if it's coming to the president or the vice president.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's complicated. I pretty much don't like censorship. Because, like I said, there's a debate with Twitter. You know, the debate is, should they do something, or do they have the power to do something? Like, technically, I don't really think banning Trump is a great idea, but I also don't think banning Trump does much. I also don't think Twitter's ability to choose should be taken away. So it's a pretty complicated topic.
Yeah, it is.
It's not really something that could be easily decided because the precedent is there. If you're saying that the government or somebody can deny Twitter from enacting something on their own platform that is within law, then that can trickle down, to other spaces. So that's why it's kind of dangerous to suggest any type of intervention there, because that would create a precedent for other situations that we don't really have to know what can happen. And there's a lot of journalists who would be completely against the ban. I know there are quite a few. I know Greenwald is against it. I think Michael Tracy is against it. And these guys are largely left-wingers, or at least, or more. Yeah, so journalists, comedians, people who use the microphone as a means of sustaining their livelihood, they typically are going to be against any suppression of speech because their whole livelihood is dependent on that. That's why we see a whole lot of these figures kind of condemn that. Usually the people who do are people who, one, don't have much success at using their voice and using it as something that sustains them and their livelihood, or just people who just don't know what the consequences could be. So I know that what I said about Twitter seems odd. I do see that there's other issues there, and it would be hard to fix. But ultimately, I do think Twitter should have the right to choose. Should they not do it? It's my opinion that they shouldn't, but they have the right to do so because it's their business, unfortunately.
Right.
But yeah, Capital, man. Like, when did you start watching this madness on TV? You just heard about it and then you turned the news on?
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe it was about halfway through the day or so. I don't remember what time it was.
Yeah, because someone told me, oh yeah, it was my wife told me, it's like, yeah, someone just told me on social media that they're protesting. I was like, yeah, I heard that they're protesting today. And she's like, oh no, they broke into the Capitol. It's like, are you serious? And that's when I started watching the news. But yeah, it's insane, man. We're supposed to be the most secure country, but it seems like we are super unstable right now because of what's going on. Especially just following politics. It's like, fuck. It's hard to believe that. Well, I think you watch Rising, and they believe that a lot of the politicians who are kind of buying into the Trump bullshit are basically doing it not because they believe it, but because of political reasons, which include fundraising.
Yeah,
It sucks, man. It's like these people have no principles.
yeah, no shit, man.
But yeah, did you have any other things to say about this capital situation?
Mm, no, I don't think so. I mean, I just think it's really fucked up and shocking and surprising. And I mean, like we were talking about earlier, I really it seems like it seems like this thing might continue or it might get worse. And but I really I'm trying to remain cautiously optimistic, and I hope it's going to de-escalate with Biden as president.
Oh, well, someone said in the live chat, Charismatic06, which is one of my buddies from San Diego, he added that I added reverb to my mic. Technically, that is true. I walked into the hallway into a big open space, so that's why you heard reverb for a little while. But
Oh,
it
okay.
was actual.
I saw that comment and then muted myself on here and checked the audio in the live stream, and I didn't hear anything unusual, so I didn't even mention it.
No, it wasn't an effect I added. It was like actual physical reverb.
Yeah. Okay.
It wasn't a digital effect. It's just where I was walking. Yeah, capital shit was fucking nuts. I can tell you that much. Um, and I was also looking at what world leaders were saying, um, and everybody across the world was condemning this. Like even people who were allied with Trump, and we're talking about like Netanyahu from Israel, he condemned it. Um, People were really upset across the world, and we just need to handle our business here. Try to make sure this shit doesn't happen again. I think it's now really us as voters here in the United States, we really got to learn a lesson from this. And, next time we have some crazy ass conspiracy theorist in a primary, we know ultimately the possibility of what could happen
Yeah,
um,
man.
when, when we elect somebody who already has signs of being divorced from reality.
Yeah, man.
So we know what could happen, and basically it's instability. But I think I'm not exhausted of the topic. I still just want to listen to what these other people have been saying, and I just want us to get back to fucking normal, man. It's funny because we thought, like a lot of people thought, as soon as um, everybody called the election, that was our return back to normalcy. Apparently, it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And we don't know if it's going to happen yet. We don't know how crazy people are going to get after the 20th. We don't know if this is going to incite lone loonies, like people who do crazy shit by themselves. And you do know that they found two explosive devices as well, right, Andrew?
No, I didn't know that. Holy shit.
They found two IEDs.
Holy fuck. Wow.
They found like 10 Molotov cocktails.
Wow.
So like one of the guys they arrested in the Capitol had like a trunk full of AR-15s. Like he didn't bring them into the Capitol, but the guy was ready to do something.
Holy shit, man.
So it's good that it didn't escalate further than it did, but I can imagine it could have. Like you had friggin' bombs set to blow off. You had people with Molotov cocktails ready. You had people with trunks full of uh, semi-automatic rifles. Um, it's almost as if we got lucky. Nothing really huge went down. Like, and even saying that, 5 people died. It could have been worse.
Yeah, man.
I'm glad it wasn't. I'm not glad that people died, but it definitely could have been worse.
Yeah, man. Fuck.
So, yeah, these investigations and things are still ongoing. I'm just 20 years, and it's funny because of how much history we're living right now. I'm really wondering, like 40, 50 years from now, how this event will be foretold in a history book.
Yeah,
Like,
man.
how are they going to explain this in a
Yeah,
history book?
I know.
So, yeah, and then there are people who are saying, like, this event has impact. Like, I can see where they're coming from. Some people saying that this event has as much impact for them as 9/11 did.
I can see how for some people it would.
I can too,
But
just
obviously
by the
far less
shock
people died,
factor.
and like you said, not to belittle those people who died, but yeah, far less people did die.
I think it's the shock value comes from 9/11. It was a foreign entity attacking us, and this were our own people
Mm-hmm.
are attacking the institutions of government.
Yeah.
I can get how there's an equivalence. Like, it's much more shocking to have the people in your own country wanting to do this rather than, a foreign hostile power or insurgency. But yeah, it was not as I'd say it wasn't as shocking for me because there are so many people who died on 9/11. Um, to me, it's not that close, but it
Yeah.
was definitely shocking, and I
What?
think there's going to be a huge impact going forward.
Okay.
What
Yeah,
happened?
sorry. I meant to mute myself there.
But do you have any last words on the Capitol riot?
No, not really. I mean, other than just to sum it up, like I was saying, it's really fucking terrible, and I hope nothing worse happens, and I hope things get better.
Yeah, yeah. I'm optimistic. I think people have come to terms with. I would say I've been dismissing the power of Donald Trump probably the entirety of his presidency
Me too.
until this,
Yeah, me too.
because I never thought he would use his power extrajudicially
Mm-hmm.
um, in this way.
Yeah.
It's just fucking crazy.
Yeah, man.
It is insane. I'm not gonna. Wow. He. I can't say he's the worst president in history, but he's up there.
Yeah. I mean, I still think I still kind of think
Well,
uh
the establishment is gonna think he's the worst.
oh, for sure, for sure.
Um,
I still kind
it,
of think George W. Bush is a little bit worse, but I think I think they're closer to equal than I used to think.
well, here's what I know. I know the establishment is gonna call Trump worst
Mm-hmm.
because the establishment is fine with us killing people overseas. They just
Yeah.
don't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
People who are more libertarian minded, who are anti war, definitely Bush is going to be worse.
Yeah.
But if you're just going to go with the establishment narrative where you don't factor in our foreign meddling in wars, you're going to think Trump is worst.
Yeah.
And that's how you can tell, like on the liberal side, who is more of an establishment person or more of a populist or anti-war is who they think the worst president is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that. 2021 is definitely starting off with a bang.
Yeah, man. Like some people have been like, fuck 2020, I'm ready for 2020 to end, and then 2021 starts off worse.
Yeah, he basically, Trump is just saying, hold my beer to 2020. He's like, hold my beer. I am optimistic. I think this pandemic's probably going to end for most people this year. How's like the vaccine situation in your area?
I mean, I haven't looked into it that much, honestly, but I mean, it seems like not that many people have got it yet, and as far as I know, we're trying to do it like strategically in terms of older, more vulnerable people, and frontline healthcare workers getting it first. So
Hmm.
I don't know how long exactly, but it'll probably be a while till like regular people like me and my family can get it.
Yeah, I think, well, my wife's in the category that would lump her in the first responders. They actually put teachers in with first responders, so she'll be getting hers soon. I'm trying to make her not buy into the stupid conspiracy theories.
Like
It's
what?
difficult, man. Well,
About
like
about the
fucking
vaccine?
idiots. Well, idiots on her Facebook list like post stupid anti-vaxxer bullshit about how, oh, this guy got fucking an allergic reaction to this vaccine. It's like, yeah, some people are going to be allergic to some shit. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean that it's harmful for everybody.
Hasn't it been to like only something like four people who have negatively reacted to it so far?
Yeah, that's going to happen with any type of inoculation.
Yeah, it always ends up being like a really tiny fraction of people.
Yeah, so just trying to convince her that she needs to take it when she has it available and not to buy into the stupid bullshit that people
Hmm.
post online, especially if it's a screenshot.
Yeah,
And I tell her, well, if you see these headlines, you actually have to go in and read the story.
yeah.
As oftentimes she doesn't, and she just sends me the article, and I read the article. It's like, well, this doesn't change anything. It's just saying that this one guy got an allergic reaction.
Hmm.
That's it. One person.
Yeah,
So I don't know. It's just I'm waiting. I'm not in the first category of my state, so I'm probably going to be in category two. So we'll see.
yeah,
Well, yeah, now off of a somber topic, I guess we could get into our readings for the week.
yes.
And what you got, man? You said you read quite a bit of things.
Yep. So I finished rereading A Dance with Dragons, the fifth and currently last one that is actually out, the book in the Song of Ice and Fire / Game of Thrones series. And yeah, I love that one. And just like with the other books, every time I read this series, I like it more. Just like with lots of books, and I like how in this one the the identities of some characters change, like as in the titles of the chapters changed in terms of the way that they describe the characters, and there are more chapters from perspectives of characters we haven't heard who perspectives that we haven't gotten before, but they're characters that we've seen, both that and the perspectives of characters we haven't even heard of before. And then it gradually and then it mostly covers the perspectives of people, of different people in different areas from the previous book, Feast of Crows, and
Mm-hmm.
and then closer to the end, it starts to drip back in a little more of the perspectives from from the people in the previous book. So, and there's there's even more there's actually a little bit more character development, like with Jamie, for example, Jamie Lannister, and there's more interesting stuff happening with the plot and cool action and stuff like that. So it's probably, I would say, it's probably my favorite one in other than the first one in terms of the series.
Mm-hmm.
And like we were talking about last week when I was still reading it, I really hope George R. R. Martin eventually finishes the series. That'd be nice.
Yeah, yeah, hopefully. This isn't the newest book supposed to come out this year.
I thought it was.
We'll see, man. Like, how long has he been working on this fucking book?
I think it's almost a decade.
Yeah, this is like fucking Patrick Rothfuss level now.
How long is it? How long have people been waiting for the next Patrick Rothfuss book?
I think it's been over 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check his
Wow.
his stuff
And
here.
is
Maybe.
he the author of King Killer? Yeah, King Killer.
Yeah, he's a King Killer Chronicles author.
Okay.
He has said that it took him 10 years to write the first book.
Okay.
So he started it 10 years before it was published. Let's see. King Killer Chronicles. So the last book, which was, what's the name? Wiseman's Fear. It was 2011, so it's going to be a decade this March.
Oh yeah, I think that's the same year that A Dance with Dragons came out.
In 2011?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep, so this March it's been a decade and he has not announced any type of publishing date. So who knows when he's going to come out with his next book? And who
Wow.
knows as if he's even working on it.
Well, at least at least I heard from Daniel Green that George R. R. Martin has apparently gotten a lot more work done on Winds of Winter during the pandemic. And I had heard that because of that, it was supposed to finally come out this year, but I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I guess because I haven't been paying attention to Game of Thrones news recently, and I saw that there's going to be a new Game of Thrones series apparently next year.
Oh, that's soon, hey? I had heard about that, but I didn't know that it was confirmed.
I believe it takes place during the reign of the Targaryens.
So it's a prequel.
Yeah, so I think it's basically going to follow the other book that Martin wrote,
The
which is
like fake
about
nonfiction one?
which one?
Like one of the fake nonfiction ones about the history?
No, because he has a couple of Well, he has a fake nonfiction one, and he has another one called Fire and Blood. I think is that the
Yeah,
one?
yeah.
So I think it's going to be based off of Fire and Blood.
Okay.
So that's worth looking into. And Wheel of Time, I'm waiting on that. Can't wait till they finish the first season of filming.
Yeah, that would be cool, man. Yeah. That's actually one of the other things that I've been reading. I've been reading more of the more of the chapters of Crown of Swords, Book 7 of Wheel of Time, because we're gonna to do that next episode on that book with Tristram sometime soon.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I'm actually almost done with the book. I think I'm like at chapter 38.
Oh, okay. How many
And
chapters are there in this one?
this one doesn't have as many as your usual Jordan book. So I think there's like only 42 or 43 chapters.
Oh, okay.
But these chapters seem to be a lot bigger than a normal Jordan chapter.
Yeah, I noticed that because I was about to read the next 15 chapters, and I was looking at how many pages that is, and I realized, oh wow, these 15 chapters take up almost 300 pages.
Yeah, so usually a Jordan chapter from like his previous books typically were between 10 to 15 pages, and now it seems like a lot of them are double that.
Yeah.
So sometimes in one night I won't even finish a chapter. I'll like get through half of it and then I start falling asleep.
Oh, okay.
But so you started reading that, and what else did you have?
Mhm. I read read this paper that I think it's like a it's like an academic theological and philosophical paper um, that my mom still had from when she was in university or seminary that I thought was interesting, and it's called "Developments in the Marxist Critique of Religion." So it obviously goes into the Marxist critique of religion, and it's interesting because it goes into like academic philosophy, some of the philosophers that I've heard of, like Hegel's relation to Marx and dialectic materialism and ideas like that in relation to his to Marx's critique of religion, and it goes into some philosophical and some philosophical ideas and political ideas and some theological, like some academic theological concepts as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty interesting, like even though I disagree with Marx's conclusion about religion because it's like really oversimplified and and actually sounds like a militant atheist criticism because it's like it's a rationalist criticism, and it's about how like basically religion only takes over when people are weak and looking for a leader, and it corrupts people and makes them and worsens their lives and shit like that. But I thought it was interesting just in terms of the technical academic arguments that it gets into. Like the arguments are interesting, but the conclusion is stupid, in my opinion.
Mm.
Um, I also I also read this really interesting book called From Here to Infinity, which is about the history of science fiction and different subgenres, and how they have arisen throughout history, and goes into some of the works of some of the major authors too. It's pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah, I highly recommend that one. And then also, um, yeah, like I was telling you, I finished reading Oathbringer, which is book
Oh, you
three of
finished it?
Stormlight Archive, of course. Yeah, and I thought it was fucking awesome. I love it so much more than book one and two. I think I gave book one 4 stars on Goodreads, and I think I gave book two just barely 4 stars. Like, but it was only because of that last like fifth part of the novel or so, which it was such an exciting ending part. The pacing really fucking dragged for me in the second one, but to me it felt like in the third one it just ramped up all the stuff that I liked about the previous books. Like the character development was so interesting, and like I said, my favorite parts were the flashbacks with Dalinar, and it gets into more of this world building and magic system and telling you more about the history and of the like wars between the gods and the magic powers and the different types of the Knights Radiant. And there's just and there are so many awesome battle sequences too, especially in the Dalinar flashbacks, and they're like taking over kingdoms, and like that dark shit that happened in Dalinar's past, as we were talking about, like from murdering a child to engineering a genocide and burning an entire town down. And yeah, I just thought it was a really great book.
Yeah, I forget which one, but I remember I was really angry when they killed the second king got killed.
Oh yeah,
when
which
he was manifesting his powers and he got killed right then and there.
right?
I
Which one
forget,
was
was it the
that?
first book or the second book
Was
or the
that
third book?
you're not talking about Elokar, are you? Is it Sadius? I don't remember.
No, not Sadius. Oh man, I hate Sadius. Not Sadius. It's the guy who became king after the king was assassinated.
Okay. I don't remember
He's
who
like
I
the
don't remember his name.
wimpy
I don't
guy
remember his
who
name.
he was like really not. He was like he kind of started to befriend. He befriended Dalinar, and he was also kind of befriending Kaladin a little bit. But I know he was asking like Kaladin how he came to be who he was because he seemed because he saw Dallin or Kaladin like in combat and stuff, and he was like extremely impressed.
Right.
And then he wanted to get tips from him to be more confident, and then they were starting to have a relationship, and then he gets killed in a battle.
Yeah.
And we could see that he was manifesting Knight's Radiance powers.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, it's awesome. I'm looking forward to reading Rhythm of War. That should be really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you like the third one best.
Yeah.
What do
Which
you
one do
think
you
about
like the
that?
best?
I don't know. That's I really love the Bridge 4 origin story.
That is pretty cool.
I
Yeah.
love Bridge 4, but like I said, I love Dalinar's origin story as a character,
Mm-hmm.
but I also loved like the coming up of Bridge 4.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts of Way of Kings. Yeah.
And I know there were like some pacing issues with book 2, but I did enjoy like Shalon's past and how she killed her own dad. I thought that
Yeah.
was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And there were some really good fight scenes in the second book where they
Yeah.
had that tournament, right?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
Kaladin was helping them, and there's always good combat in all these books, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard for me to decide right now. I'm probably going to start reading Rhythm of War soon, and I'll get that to you. I'll
Oh,
post it
sweet.
so you can read it. But yeah, it's good stuff. Like,
Yeah.
but you had more context when you read it than I did.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
when
like
they
you were saying,
were
I had read Warbreaker first, like you recommended. Yeah.
Yeah, so when they went into the cognitive realm and they had this character that just came out of nowhere that knows all about these powers and stuff, and she wasn't really well explained, I was like, who is this person? I don't get this character. And then I guess now that I've read Warbreaker, it's like, oh, this makes way more sense.
Yeah. So
So,
I was asking you because it was a while ago that I read Warbreaker because I was gonna get into Stormlight Archive sooner than I expected.
mhm.
I don't remember the names of those characters.
Okay, so one of them is Vasher.
Okay.
Do you know which one in Stormlight is Vasher?
No, I don't remember.
He's one of the sword trainers
Okay.
that they describe as looking like a vagabond, and he talks strangely and has a weird accent.
Okay.
And I forgot the girl's name, but she's the character in Warbreaker who is the princess that comes to rescue her sister.
Oh, okay.
So she's the one in Stormlight who has like the weird shard sword, and she wears armor, like a breastplate. and she goes with them into the cognitive realm.
Oh, okay.
What do they call it in that book? They don't call it the cognitive realm. They call it something. Shadesmar. That's what they call
Oh,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So she goes into them with Shadesmar, and she has all this knowledge about traveling between worlds and how to navigate Shadesmar. So we're like, who's this character, and how does she know all this shit? So it begins to make more sense because she comes from a completely different planet. If you think about Warbreaker,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
so
What are the different
and we
planets? The one in Stormlight Archive is Roshar, right? That's the
yeah,
planet?
it's Rorschach. Yeah, it's the name of the planet. It's Stormbreaker. I don't know the name of the planet, but it's a different planet.
Warbreaker.
And it, yeah, in Warbreaker. And then we see in the book how they make travel possible through these realms. So we get the scene where Dalinar says "unite." I think that scene put shivers up my spine when he did that. I don't know. It's just Michael Kramer is able to do these things really well. It kind of
Yeah,
reminds
man.
me of the Ashaman kill scene.
Yeah. Ashima.
Um,
Kill.
so the unite scene is my Ashaman kill scene for Stormlight. He's like unite, and then he creates a wormhole between Shadesmar and um, the reality. I don't know, Roshar, I guess. And this brings those who are stuck in Shadesmar back. So Kaladin's back. How many people went to him? It was Kaladin, Shallan, um, the lady from Warbreaker.
Right.
Was it somebody else or was it just them three?
I think it was just them.
Yeah, it was just them three, and they were with their spren, right? So their spren showed up.
Right.
No, there was one more person. Um, Dalinar's son was with them, wasn't he?
Oh, was he?
Because remember, one of the spren was like this weird spren that wasn't completely alive. It was like a zombie spren. And if we remember the shard blades that um, the people have dead spren. And I remember one of the dead spren was with them in Shadesmar. So I think it was
So Adolin was
Dalinar's
there too?
son. I think I think so.
Okay.
Wasn't one of them there? Because why would they be followed around with a dead spren?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because Kaladin doesn't have a shard blade.
Yeah.
Shallan's shard blade is not connected to a spren. It's like she. See, they didn't explain that yet, so I don't know how the Knights Radiant powered people can create shard blades. Apparently, they can. But the people who have shard blades that aren't Knights Radiant have dead spren associated with it.
Or
So
people who have become Knights Radiant who got their shard blades before they became Knights Radiant, like Dalinar, right?
yeah, because he has his spren is the Stormfather though.
Yeah.
So and they
Those
all
were cool
have
parts when he was talking
yeah.
about Stormfather.
Yeah, so it's interesting how like different they get their different powers, and that's related to like different types of spren. Like we
Mm-hmm.
have the other people that show up at the battle. I know what's his name becomes good, right? Um, what's his name?
Ooh.
Sun Volano.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, he becomes good. Um, the one who's always slipping around. I forgot her name. Her. But yeah, it's interesting how that series is evolving and how they're finding out more about how Sprint operate and how they interact with the world. So yeah, I liked the book. I don't have a verdict yet on which is my favorite.
Okay,
I'm probably going to go through them again once you get to that section of your Cosmere coverage. But I'm
cool.
going to wait until then to go back through it. All right. Oh, we talked a lot about that.
All right. So I read there was one other book that I read yesterday. Because it's pretty short. I I read The Time Machine by H.G. Wells, which is pretty cool. I liked his the other book of his that I've read is War of the Worlds, which I thought was really cool when I read it. And I thought this was pretty cool too because it's like the very first story about a time machine. Like as far as I know, H.G. Wells actually invented the concept of a time machine. And this was interesting that he goes like 800,000 years into the future and then he goes back in time and then spoiler alert, but it's like a hundreds of years old book that at the end he travels back to his own time and then he disappears to time travel somewhere else and then no one knows where he's gone.
Hmm. Yeah, it's. I remember listening to it, and I thought it was pretty good. It's old, which is
It
really
is.
interesting.
I think it came
And
out in 1895.
yeah, and there's like parts of the book where he goes super far ahead in the future too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But
He went 2,000 years
after,
into the future.
yeah, I know after I read that book, I watched the movie.
Which movie?
Oh, there's a movie based off of the Time Machine.
No, I mean there are more. There's more than one. You mean the one that came out with Guy Pearce?
Yes.
Yeah. I remember it was a long time ago when I saw that one, and it was before I read the book because this was the first time that I read it. But based on what I
Mhm.
can remember, it doesn't seem that similar to the book, and there wasn't this whole romance relationship like I remember there being in the movie.
Yeah, they took some liberties. I remember that because they manufactured like a villain
Yeah,
for the film,
yeah,
whereas the books didn't really have a villain. They had like these weird um, creatures, I guess, but they weren't led by a leader who was like a villain.
yeah.
But yeah, it's they definitely took some liberties, especially with the end of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Orson Welles. I still haven't read War of the Worlds yet. My first
Yeah.
Orson Welles book was The Time Machine.
You mean H.G. Wells?
H.G. Wells,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I always
Orson
get them
Welles.
confused because Orson Welles read War of the Worlds or did a reenactment
Yeah.
of
If
War
it's
of the
still on there,
Worlds.
if it's still on there, I listened to. You can hear on YouTube the original radio broadcast of Orson Welles reading War of the Worlds, and it was like the biggest troll ever, and people thought there was actually a Martian invasion.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Um, oh yeah, I forgot to mention with Oathbringer, check out the Legendarium episode.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna do that. There are like 3 episodes that they did on it, I think.
Yeah, I haven't heard this much crying on any episode. Like,
Oh
it's funny because one, Todd is not in the episode, but there's more
really?
crying. Yeah, there's more crying in the episode than any of Todd's episodes.
Oh wow. Wow, that's pretty impressive. He
Yeah, and
usually
he's
cries at
not even
least
in it.
once or twice an episode.
Yeah, it's a lot. So you'll see what I mean once you listen to it.
Okay.
But
Did you
was
listen to
there?
only one of the episodes or all 3?
No, I listened to all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, all three. It's a giant cry fest.
Wow.
You'll see why. Was there anything else you read today?
Nope. That's all I read this week.
Yeah, I didn't read too much. I was actually read pretty light Latest thing I just finished was a David Sedaris book. Are you familiar with David Sedaris?
The author's name sounds familiar, but I don't think I've read any of his books.
Um, he's it's hard. He writes essays, and the essays are basically about his life. The essays are comedic in nature. I don't even know if he's trying to be funny, but he thinks so weirdly and he acts so weirdly.
Yeah,
Um, which makes sense because he has like some weird issues. Like I think he has OCD. I know in one of his books he explains like his OCD. But
I have OCD.
like how much OCD?
It's not super severe, but it's bad sometimes. It's one of the reasons I'm so slow at everything I do because I have to do shit in a really particular way.
So you have like tics? What are your OCD tics?
Mm, well, it's just that I like to do things in a certain way and in a certain order, and I get bothered if things get moved or if things are not done in a certain way in a certain order. And like it's gotten better because I've worked on it too. Like I used to do things like, for example, when I would go to the bathroom, I would make sure to check the doors locked like 5 times, and now I've gotten better about that, where I don't even lock the door when I go to the bathroom if I'm at home. I only do if I'm out somewhere.
Oh, okay. Have you ever watched a show called The OCD Project?
No, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get you a way to see it. I think you can find it on Vimeo. If I find it, I will send it to you. But
Cool.
basically, the premise is it's kind of like one of those reality shows where you get 6 people with OCD to live with each other, and they're monitored by like a doctor, and he
That
kind
sounds
of,
hard.
yeah. So he tries to help all of these OCD people like conquer their OCD. He's successful in helping some of them, but
Wow.
some of them just aren't up to the task. If I could find these shows, I would highly recommend you watching them because I think you would like to see like the process that these people go through
Yeah,
in
man.
order to conquer their OCD. It's hard for a lot of them. It looks like for someone that has it, it looks like it would be really difficult. It's not something that looks easy. So yeah, I know that and they have different types of OCD. So there are some that have like the repetitive task tics. There's some that have like the obsessive cleanliness tics. I think the cleanliness seems to be like one of the traits that a lot of them share. Not all of them share it,
That's
but a
actually one
lot.
thing that I don't have. I'm not obsessed about cleanliness.
Yeah, so some of them are obsessed with hand washing. There are a lot that have like the light switch and door lock and tap this and whatnot ticks. Like one of my best friends had OCD. Um, I don't know how he conquered it, but he would have to like lock the door at night like a specific amount of times, or she'd get like really bothered or do like a task a certain amount of times, like repetitively.
Right.
I like some people it can get worse, and some people it can get better. Um,
Yeah.
but you see that in the show. Some people don't really get better.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll see if I can find that. It's called the OCD Project, and it was a show that I just randomly saw on TV, and it was extremely captivating.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah,
was
that
like,
sounds
wow,
interesting.
this is like how OCD people live.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, going back to this book, David Sedaris, I would consider them a comedic writer. He could definitely be a stand-up comedian, which is funny because
Cool.
he just tells funny stories, right? And in the audiobook, instead of having him talk into a microphone, he does tours, and he
Yeah.
just Yeah, he does tours and he just narrates these essays to people.
Hmm.
And
Interesting.
some of them are freaking hilarious. He's just such a weird person. I don't understand how these people exist. Um, like there's this one story where he finds that he has like this fatty lymphoma in his abdomen and he gets it removed. The problem is when he goes to his doctor, he wants to keep it. And the
Why?
doctor's That's what I'm saying. The guy is weird. And the doctor's like, well, it's illegal for me to remove a part of your body and give it to you. So he goes and he
It
gets
is? I didn't
this
know that.
surgery. I don't think he was in the United States when he got the. I think he was like in England when he tried to get the surgery.
Okay.
So what happened was he had a doctor do the surgery under the table. So he made him
So he could
and
keep
had
the
them
tumor.
just so he could keep the tumor.
Wow.
And it wasn't a cancerous tumor. It was like a non can. So what he did with the tumor is he saved it because he wanted to feed it to a turtle.
What?
Exactly. It's funny though. It's a very short audiobook. It's like 5 hours. I'll post it. I think you'll think it's funny.
What's it called?
It's called Calypso.
Okay. Because I think I've seen in my library that there might be books by him, but I'm not sure if there's that one. Is one that
Yeah, a lot of his books are funny. The
is one that
majority
he
of his
wrote
books are
called
hilarious.
is one that he wrote called something like Let's Learn About Diabetes with Owls?
That sounds like a title he'd make.
Because I've
His
seen that in my library, but I haven't read it.
Yeah, I need to. He's funny. Like a lot of his books are hilarious. They're just anecdotes about his life and his family. As I guess his sister's kind of B-list famous. His sister's Amy Sedaris. Do you know who she is?
Sounds familiar. She's an actor, right? What is she in?
Yeah, she's a comedic actress. So she's usually plays some type of she usually plays like someone that's supposed to be comic relief. She's in The Mandalorian.
I haven't seen that
Uh,
yet.
oh, you haven't?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I recognize her.
So you know who she is, right?
Yeah.
And she's had her own like variety and comedy shows too.
Okay.
So yeah, he's super funny. He's, I don't know. I thought this book was really good, but I'll get it to you, and It's short enough so that it's not something you just have to sit through, and I think you would enjoy it. I found it funny,
Cool.
and I found a link to the OCD project, so I'll send that to you as well.
Cool. Thanks.
Um, I was also reading. I was getting through The Wheel of Time, of course, and I don't think we'll need to really get into that.
Yeah, we'll
But
talk
I
about
think,
Tristram.
yeah, and I think I read one more thing, but I just can't remember what it was.
You
Um,
want to look it up on your Goodreads?
yeah, that's what I'm gonna do right now.
I had to do that the other day, or I think it was yesterday, because I knew we were going to talk about what books we read. Because
Mhm,
I had misremembered the title of that nonfiction book I read about the history of science fiction. I remembered the
mhm.
title as From Infinity to Beyond, that Buzz Lightyear line from Toy Story.
Actually, you know what? I did not read anything else.
Okay.
Because now that I remember, instead of listening to like some other audiobook, I was listening to Crown of Swords to
Okay.
prepare for the podcast. So yeah, that's all I did is Calypso and Crown of Swords.
Okay.
And I've taken just a mild break from books and I was listening to podcasts. But I was
Okay.
just trying to get people's opinion on the whole Capitol thing.
Hmm.
And I've been looking for Rogan's opinion. I don't know who he talked to. He's had a couple podcasts since that happened.
Yeah,
So
but he hasn't
that's
talked about it, you said?
so far, but I've only listened to the Phil Demaris podcast, which is the first one he made since then.
Okay.
So maybe he's talked to it with other people. I don't know yet.
I'm still catching up on the newer ones that I haven't listened to because I didn't research it or anything, so it took me a while to figure out that he's just releasing short clips from the episodes on YouTube now and isn't releasing full episodes on there anymore.
Mm, yeah, you have to actually go to Spotify now.
That's like I
No,
was
he
telling
still does
you
the little
before.
clips, but I
Yeah,
haven't seen any of his little clips mention anything about the Capitol. So,
yeah.
did
Well,
you
like
see
I told
anything?
the no, no. Like I told you too before we started this, I finally caved and downloaded Spotify just to listen to Joe Rogan.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess you have to now, right?
Yep.
So we'll see. We'll see. Oh, I didn't know he had Schultz on.
The
I'll have to
comedian?
check that out. Yeah, he had Schultz on recently, I guess. Guess I
Okay.
didn't
I
catch
haven't said
that.
I haven't actually watched any of those with him.
Well, I was liking Schultz's like show that he was pretty making on YouTube, where he was just like commenting on things. I
Okay.
haven't actually checked it out recently. I just have to see. Oh, well, it's probably because I'm on the wrong YouTube account. Maybe that's why. 'Cause I got
Okay.
like three of them.
Okay.
But yeah, that's all. That's it. I didn't read a whole lot this past week.
Okay.
But yeah, I was definitely appalled.
Yeah,
Appalled.
me too, man. Fuck.
Like, and it's a little different too when you live close by.
Yeah, like I was thinking about that because you live like just outside of DC, right? Or in DC?
It, well, no, it's a suburb outside of DC because there's a river, and anything on the other side of that river is suburbs. So I went and checked on the map, and I'm 20 miles from
Oh
like
yeah.
the heart of DC.
That's pretty close, yeah. And I'm in
Yeah, so that's
Canada, so this is all just like there's no risk to me basically.
yeah. I just got a photo sent to me, and did Trump get banned from thing?
From what?
This is a Fox News report. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, so I have a screenshot of a Fox News report of platforms banning or restricting President Trump, and here's what it shows: Facebook, Twitter, Google, Spotify, Snapchat, Instagram, Shopify, Reddit, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, and
Holy fuck.
Pinterest.
Wow. They banned him from everything.
That's
Is
what
there
it sounds like.
oh shit.
I don't know if this is a real screenshot. It's showing it's a screenshot of, looks like a Fox News report,
Okay.
but they think it's a joke. I'm not sure.
Wow.
I'll have to look into that. I don't know if it's real or not because it's a screenshot. So that's why I got to be skeptical here.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. But that would be pretty insane.
Yeah, man.
I don't think you should get banned from all that.
Yeah.
All right. So, crazy situation, man. So next week, Are we gonna do Fahrenheit next week?
Yeah,
Or no?
yeah, we
Are we doing? It depends on Tristram's health, right?
yeah. If he's feeling up to it, we can talk about the next 15 chapters on Crown of Swords, and yeah, I'll watch that documentary that I was supposed to watch, Fahrenheit 11/9 rather than Fahrenheit 9/11, so we can talk about that either next Saturday or the one after that.
Yeah, for sure. So next week, likely we're going to be doing, well, if Tristram is not up for next week, we'll be doing Fahrenheit. Well, I think we should just go along and just do Fahrenheit for next week and just give them some time to rest.
Yeah, sure.
And then we'll do Wheel of Time the following week
All right.
for Crown of Swords.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the plan for next week.
Cool.
It's okay that things got mixed up. It's like I could think of it. Yeah, that you can definitely get mixed up. And we
Yeah.
can curse Michael Moore for basically making a movie with so similar titles that it's just a switch on two numbers and it's a
Yeah.
different movie.
Yeah. Like I said, I knew that he had made a documentary about Trump, and I knew that there was a documentary called Fahrenheit 11/9, but I didn't know that that one was his documentary on Trump. So when you said 11/9, I assumed you meant 9/11.
Mm. Yeah, wasn't that one. But yeah, we'll talk about that next week. And
Cool.
and you can go ahead and talk about what we'll be doing on your channel tomorrow.
Yeah. Tomorrow we're gonna talk about Apocalypse Now, which will be especially cool because you, Parker, and I, of course, talked about Heart of Darkness recently, and Apocalypse Now is loosely based on that. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about that. It's a fucking great. I think it's the best anti-war movie ever, for fucking sure.
Yes, and Apocalypse Now, mind over matter, next better be to cow.
Yep.
That is Method Man quote there.
Oh, okay. I thought that sounded familiar, but I didn't remember exactly what it was from.
I think I sent the video of
Did
what it
you?
was from. Yeah, I sent
Oh,
it to
okay.
you. So listen to the first 20 seconds. It's basically the opening to that song.
Oh, okay.
Just whenever I hear that someone say that title, I always say the rest of that lyric in my
Okay.
head.
It's like Cartman in one of the earlier seasons of South Park, where whenever someone starts singing "Come Sail Away," he has to sing the whole song.
But yeah, tomorrow we'll be discussing Apocalypse Now, which reminds me I still need to watch it, which shouldn't be a big issue. I'm just gonna
Okay.
watch the rest of it tonight. Should be no problem.
It's a long movie too.
Oh, how long is it?
3 hours and 15 minutes.
Fuck. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think that I downloaded it to my tablet, but that's fine. I'll just buy it on Amazon Prime. I'll rent it.
Okay.
Or actually, you know what? I think I could just stream it remotely through my computer and
Can
watch
you?
it that way. I believe so. I
Okay.
could use my remote stream. I know it's not going to be of the best quality, but I can do it that way.
Okay.
And that solves that problem.
Oh, I forgot to mention earlier, Mackle commented when we were talking about the time machine, and he said, "Oh, yeah, the time machine and War of the Worlds and H.G. Wells and the Orson Welles reading it on that radio broadcast." He said, "The misunderstanding of the War of the Worlds speaks to the topic of media literacy, at least the broadcast." I thought that was a good point.
Yeah, you know, it's true. People did get duped by that, and I know someone pulled the same prank in Brazil, like
Oh, yeah?
years and years later.
Oh,
and
wow.
it had a worse effect. I think some people actually died as a result
Oh, wow.
of the panic. And
Wow.
there's actually a great Radio Lab episode. Do you listen to Radio Lab?
Occasionally. I used to listen to it more often, but I haven't in a while.
Yeah. There is a good Radio Lab episode about that. I couldn't tell you what it was off the top of my head, but it's there somewhere. But someone in Brazil did the same thing, and the person who did it actually got into huge trouble. I think they actually went to jail for that
Oh, okay.
because it caused harm. I don't know how many people got injured or died, but I remember some people either died or got severely injured because of the
Okay.
panic that caused.
Okay.
But yeah, so we got to ramble on for about 2 or 3 minutes because I am not near the button to
Okay.
stop the stream.
Okay.
So we could just say random shit until then.
Okay. Yeah.
Did you know that I think it was Wednesday in America, it was National Pass Gas Day?
Was it?
Yeah. So,
Was
yes,
there a lot
in
of
the
people
United
partying in public?
States, well, yeah, in the United States, we have a National Fart Day. I don't know what you're supposed to do, but I know I did fart audibly that day.
Good. You're respecting the tradition.
Yes. Because usually, when I'm in the home, I usually contain those to the bathroom, but I unleashed, even
Oh,
in the
I wonder
kitchen.
if there was a even particularly public unleashment of women's farts, because I think there's more of a social stigma against women's farts than men's.
It's interesting. I know there is, and I always applaud the brave women who are willing to fart in the presence of other
Yeah,
people. Like one of my
yeah.
friends' girlfriends, who's now his wife, had no problems just like farting in front of the guys.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, hey, that's
Good for
pretty
you.
cool. Yeah. You're liberating yourself from social stigmas.
Yeah.
And I know we had a tradition amongst my friends. So we would go to Six Flags Magic Mountain. I don't know if that's something in Canada that you have.
I don't think it is actually, but I've heard of it.
So yeah, it's a theme park with a bunch of like scary roller coasters. And at the end of the day, we would always go to this Wendy's nearby, and then we would have contests on who could fart loudest in the store. So we would just like do it casually while there's like other people eating there.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was like a tradition that we had. We had to just like fart hard as we could, and we would try to like build up the gas throughout the day.
How do you do that? Like,
I don't know. Maybe it's just the food that they serve at Six Flags is conducive to farts. I have no idea.
yeah,
Because
maybe.
it's not like you can fart immediately after eating Wendy's. I think it has something to do with all the walking we did and whatever food that they're serving there.
Is it like regular theme park food, like burgers and corn dogs and cotton candies and like
Yeah,
Oreos or mini donuts or shit like that?
yeah, like your normal like theme park fare, so stuff like that.
Okay.
But yeah, enough with the fart stories. I'm at my desk, and you can go ahead with your plugs, Andrew.
Alrighty. Yeah. So like we were talking about, if anyone wants to, they can check out Mindgasms, my YouTube channel, where we're talking about Apocalypse Now tomorrow. And as I was mentioning before, I made a video and also did a podcast with Reed and Nathan, who both have SE channels, and Reed's been on my channel before, and we had planned to mostly talk about a documentary that we had watched called Mighty Ira, which was about a former president of the ACLU who was promoting civil rights and got famous for that, and then later on got infamous for supporting the free speech of Nazis who wanted to hold rallies. But we mostly ended up, because it was the day of the Trump protest, the armed Trump protesters violently attacking the DC Capitol. We ended up mostly talking about that, but also kind of applying it to the concepts of the documentary like free speech and stuff like that. And we talked about Daryl Davis, for example, as well, and do lots of other podcasts and videos on there. And people can check out my blog as well if they want to, which is at mindgasms.bplifetime.com, where I post blogs about travel and history and philosophy, politics, same sort of things we cover on my YouTube channel, except we talk more about specific movies and books on my channel too. And yeah, people can check out my Patreon and give me money on there, which I greatly appreciate, even $1 a month, and which is at Mindgasms, of course. And I'm also on the social media on Twitter and Instagram at Andrew Mindgasms or Andrew Meitzer, and then I'm on Facebook as Andrew Meitzer, and my last name is spelled Meintzr. And yeah, I think that's it.
All right, great. Well, thank you guys for joining and for listening to us rant about the Capitol and the ongoing surrounding that. And if you want to follow us on social media, our Twitter handles will be included in the description of this video. You can hit either of us up there. That's probably our most accessible versions of getting in touch with us. Because typically when someone randomly contacts me on Facebook, I'm always suspicious of who that is. If it's on Twitter, I know there's a bunch of random people out there that might ask me questions, and that's fine. And you can go
Well,
ahead.
for me, I don't check my Twitter messages as often as I check my my Facebook Messenger messages, because I always have like get message notifications for that, but I don't get message notifications for Twitter.
Oh, well, I now started to check Twitter more often, just to check and see if anybody has tried to reach out to me. You can try Facebook if you want, but it's a little bit more personal, and I'm always skeptical of who's trying to contact me. But
Yeah.
if you want to just have discussions and stuff, I'm still a part of the fans of the Mixed Metal Arts Facebook group. We're always talking about shit there, so you can post and get involved in conversations about things. But yeah, and of course, there's a YouTube channel, so you can comment on our videos. Typically, I always respond to people who comment.
Me
So if you
too.
really want to get in touch with me, or you have any type of questions about what we're said or anything, just put a comment on our video and we'll take a look. Same with
Yep.
Andrew. Like if you like his stuff, you have questions about anything, any comments, whatever you have, I encourage you guys to go ahead down there and I want to hear what you guys have to say.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, thank you. Join us next week. So this next week we're going to talk about the Michael Moore documentary, 11 Fahrenheit 11/9, which is his more recent one that he made about 2 years ago.
Not
Uh,
Fahrenheit 9/11.
yeah, not Fahrenheit 9/11, Fahrenheit 11/9.
Yeah.
All right, and make sure you join us tomorrow for Apocalypse Now.
Yes. Check out Mindgasms for that.
All right, well, thank you very much, and you guys have a great night.
Yep. Adios until next time, everyone.